And welcome and good evening. I hope you guys are having a good time wherever you are. It's something like minus 12 degrees here in Warsaw. I think that's like what, 8 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's cold. So I see in the chat we have Just Janice 2. We've got James, that's 3, and Quinn Blessed 4, and then Conociendo el Islam. Welcome to you. Good to see you. It says, Hola a todos, muy bien dia. So thank you. Yeah, guys. So today we are here to talk about the 8 principles of totalism, part 2. And this is a discussion that's going to talk about woke cult ideology and, of course, Gnostic Manichaeism, because this is one of the sources where this comes from. At the end of the day, Gnosticism has infected everything. And yeah, meaning it's a deviation from rationality. It's a deviation from reason. It's a deviation from logos. It is anti-logos. And welcome, Michael Lawler and Dr. Jonathan Gemmell. Good to see you. Ia Enki, Cara and Jeannie Alon. Welcome. Good to see you. Yeah. So let me take that away. Right. We ended here the last time on some vocabulary, and we ended on terms like echo chamber, fake news, tolerance, and acceptance. In other words, submit to us, you bigot, you. And if you don't submit and give us what we want, we're going to call you a something phobe. Right. Right, let's continue from that point forward. Right, we discussed previously the Green Party of Scotland, who had an interesting, who had someone who's in their party who's apparently some sort of witch who was doing an incantation in some, I don't know, speaking in tongues or whatever it was, invoking Tranos, the god of trans. Fine. Well, it looks like Tranos has already made strong impact in Germany because this is the German Green Party too. So there's something in the water in the Green Party headquarters. Look at all of these beautiful women. Just amazing. Yeah. And yeah, these are amazing women. Oh my God. Yeah, just saying that word. So yeah, I know you guys are wondering, like, well, what are they doing Saturday night? Maybe I can give them a call. I don't have the numbers. But yeah, so yeah, I'm compelled to join, says James. Yeah, these are the they don't CMB, welcome. Yeah, woman, my foot. Exactly. Come on, and we all this is an absolute joke. But this is the Green Party, right? Yeah, this is what we're dealing with. Now these ideas ultimately, so one of the next talks I will do, welcome XYZ, good to see you, will be to discuss nominalism, the philosophy of nominalism. This is really a root of where the problem lies. We have to describe that. So yeah, there's lots of these talks. I'm also planning to do another talk, which I have started, which is how the truth is used to tell lies. So I'm going through aspects of sophistry, how arguments are crafted, how false arguments are crafted, how sophists, propagandists, dawa, how all of that utilizes truth or elements of the truth to craft a narrative which is a lie. So yeah, let's get past these very ugly, satanic-looking men, very deluded men. Right. Women can now shut down male-only debates in Germany's Green Party. A new ruling adopted at the party's conference in Bielefeld, which ran from Friday to Sunday, stipulates that female members have the right to decide whether a debate or a discussion can go forward if there's like men, right, that are dominant, then the women are allowed to cancel or to shut down the debate and tell the men to be quiet and all that. So understand. So this is interesting. This is so I can see why these men here decided that they want to be women, because they just need to be able to talk a little bit. You're right. Yeah. Once the other things that these brain stabbing images. I know it's disturbing. Yeah, but understand, mentally, I mean, these people are losing it. This Green Party stuff, there are issues in these Green Parties. I mean, think of them as Marxist. That's really what they are, right? Socially corrosive. Okay, now let's continue. The dark side of DEI, guilt and shame. Guilt and shame are tools of propaganda. They're tools of ideological warfare. Welcome, Sandro. Right, Dan Simpson. Hello, Lilo Main. Welcome. So, DEI, it aligns with the principles of ideological warfare. If you want to have a bloodless coup against the country and you institute an ideological warfare campaign, it's going to have, obviously, it's going to have its influence campaign, it's going to have its psychological warfare component. And DEI, as part of this, has very similar overlaps to how this would operate. Right? We've already discussed this is part of how totalitarian regimes operate. And we'll see that woke aligns with this. So let's continue. Emotional and psychological manipulation and indoctrination. And we're back to the principle of mystical manipulation. This is seen in things like brainwashing, right? This is really noxious, really toxic, large group awareness trainings, and also spiritual abuse. It's emotional abuse. And you know that this obviously goes, we can see already from the outset, if it's Gnostic, it's anti-Christian. So strict rules and conformity are demanded. And this aligns with the concept of purity obsession. We see this in ultra-Orthodox religious cults. We see this in military indoctrination programs. We also see this in strict authoritarian regimes. We see this in woke as well. Right? DIE. Right? DIE, DEI. Well, DEI should die, as you know. This has become a very popular tool for organizations to address social issues that they're very interested in and promote a more inclusive work environment. You need to include irrational, unscientific, absolutely abhorrent ideas. You need to include those. You can't exclude those, you bigot. Right? And they're going to use guilt and shame and coercion to control your behavior. You'll lose your job. You'll lose your reputation. You'll be embarrassed. You'll be smeared. You'll end up in the media. You will be humiliated. Understand? That's guilt and shame. That's exactly what political coups, that's exactly what these political tools that an ideological warfare campaign would use. So this creates an environment where individuals feel pressured to conform to a particular set of naming and shaming. Exactly. Naming and shaming. Correct. Right? So they feel pressure to conform to a particular set of beliefs or behaviors, or they will be labeled as intolerant or bigoted. Now, this leads, of course, to a very toxic work culture, very toxic society, very toxic workplaces, right? And people are afraid to express their true thoughts and their true feelings. It stifles open dialogue and genuine progress. Society goes backwards, and we're seeing this today. I think we know that this is the standard rule today. Another parallel is the use of emotional manipulation techniques. So DEI training programs are the emotional manipulation, right? They employ tactics like fear-mongering. If you don't go, it's going to look bad in your record. We're going to have to reconsider your role here at the company, right? They will use gaslighting. They will even use public shaming to drive home their points. Like gaslighting, like that's a woman. No, it's not. We could see those photos. Those are not women. That you are going to lose your job, you bigot. Understand? You will be gaslit. Right? Public shaming to drive home the points, and this leaves participants feeling very emotionally drained. I'm getting an excellent signal. My signal, oh gosh, YouTube has just, no. Yeah, YouTube has just said there's a problem. I have no idea why. There's not much I can do on my end. It's a form of bullying that appears like positivity. James, that's a very good way of saying it. It is bullying. That's phrased and cloaked like positivity. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Yeah. Land of dreams. We are buying everyone's dream and buying their dreams, but their dreams are killing us. Yeah. Yes. So this leaves participants feeling emotionally drained, confused, and even traumatized. Right. And in fact, one of the points of it is to leave you feeling traumatized. It's trauma-based manipulation, right? In creating trauma allows them to more easily manipulate you, right? Allows for more easy suggestibility and control. So undermining the, right? Now, think of this. If these are supposed to make you willing participants in this brand new utopia, right? Then fear-mongering, gaslighting, public shaming, threats, right? Feeling drained emotionally, being confused. Does this undermine the goals that these programs are meant to achieve? Or are these things the actual goals of the program? You have to ask yourself, are they undermining themselves, or are they actually just following the program, in which case you're being gaslit? Right, these tools were also used in the CV program. Is there a connection? The CV program? Please enlighten me, refresh my memory. Right? Yes, you feel isolated. Yeah. In fact, I have a paper on that. I need to discuss that. I need to do this paper as well. I've been talking about it for about a year. I need to actually do this paper that I wrote on this topic on ideological warfare. We have to do that in relation to the Muslim Brotherhood. Right. So I would say my thinking is that this is the whole point of the program. It's to wave it in your face, to force you to do this, and to rub your nose in it, and also to demoralize you. Remember, to demoralize is not to like make you feel depressed. Strip out your morals and replace your morals with something else, because your morals are the thing that protect you from these things. Oh, that, yes, correct. The right. Now, the mysterious virus from China, that thing, yes, very similar, yeah. Finally, you've got mystical manipulation, right? Individuals are made to feel like they're part of something larger than themselves, a utopia. They're bringing good into the world, right? So their participation is essential for the greater good. I've discussed the greater good as part of utilitarianism, as also as part of the atheist idea for how they're going to achieve their utopia as well. And we've discussed that in the past in this discussions on socialism and atheism with their very tight connection. So again, Locust and Honey says, Gnosticism, all the manipulation is the same, which comes from an inflated view of self. And yeah, defend the false image at all cost. Yes. So according to, not sure who cornered, communist KGB, yes, Yuri Bezmenov, exactly. Most activities in the West is dedicated to social subversion and corruption. Correct. And that's exactly what that is. I would have to agree with Yuri Bezmenov. I mean, everything he said has happened, is happening. If you study DI doctrine under LED lighting powered by wind turbine, it all starts to make sense there. Yeah. This is a Marxist, socialist, communist tool, correct. So this creates a cult environment. You are coerced into the cult, right? Critical thinking is discouraged. Logic is discouraged. Blind obedience is encouraged. You have to believe that your gender is fixed because you're really a man born in a woman's body. You're really a woman born in a man's body, right? Your gender is fixed. There's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, gender is fluid. You know, I can be a different gender today if I choose. I can be, bang, hold on. I'm a woman now. Look at me. I'm a woman now because I'm gender fluid. I've just become a woman. What do you mean you can't tell my pronouns just by looking at me? Are you assuming my gender? Do you understand? This is incoherent. The whole point is that it's incoherent. It doesn't undermine the principles that they're trying to endorse. It actually is designed to be incoherent. You have to simply comply and not think about it. If you were logical, if you used critical thinking, you'd realize it's trash. Right. The whole point is that you are so confused, you just comply, and this means you are looking always. You're so confused and so lost that you're always looking to the authority for guidance, and then they can tell you, well, it's like this and like that, and you become utterly blind to the truth. You inoculate yourself against the truth. Right. This is a spiritual form of abuse. Yeah. So DEI. So DEI means it's short for discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination. Just remember that. It's short for discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination. So this is a form of ideological manipulation and indoctrination. It uses the very same techniques employed by cults and totalitarian regimes to coerce conformity. Again, mystical manipulation. So you got this idealistic vision of an entirely fair and inclusive society where you've got equality of outcome, not equality of opportunity. Right? You've got equity, which is equality of outcome. There's actually a story you guys need to look up. I have mentioned this before, but you really need to look it up. It's called The Bed of Procrustes. It's an old tale. Procrustes' bed, the bed of Procrustes. It's a very old Greek tale. There are variations of it from different eras. The French have it. Rosanne Rossi, welcome. Tom Gyoka, welcome. So but let's use the original version, the Greek version of Procrustes. So he made the perfect bed. And of course he would invite people to sleep on the bed, but the problem is some people were too tall. Some were too short, right? Some were too heavy, and that they would break through the bed, or they would curve the bed right downwards, and their feet would hang over the edge of the bed, and some would be not long enough to enjoy the pillow, and they wouldn't have the full use of the bed. Thank you, Jessica. Right? So what happened is Procrustes had to fix this, because how could these people, how dare they not fit perfectly on his bed? So the short ones, he would tie them to a rack and he would stretch them until they fitted. He would tear their limbs until they stretched long enough to fit his bed. Those who were too tall, he would have to chop off their legs or chop off their arms or do something to get them to fit the bed. So, if you had to chop your legs off at the knees to make you fit the bed, well, now it was the perfect fit. You see, that is what we're talking about here. This is how their utopia works, right? That's the bed of Procrustes. It's a warning. And that's their utopia, how that works. So they want this complete fair society based on equity, equality of outcome, no matter what they have to do, right? So, yeah, get the jab. Yeah, now another one of those things. So, now, this idea is based on an ideology. It's based on a very specific ideology, specific beliefs about race, about gender, about sexuality and identity. Ultimately, it's based on a philosophical viewpoint called nominalism and rationalism. We'll discuss those more in future. So this vision is not grounded in reality. It's a reflection of ideological convictions. This is also what they call milieu control. Participants are bombarded with these beliefs during intensive workshops and seminars. They are isolated from outside influences. You will see this in universities. Universities have become locations for milieu control. They put you in a classroom and they start indoctrinating, right? You are isolated. These become echo chambers and you are free from outside influence and your parents don't recognize you later, right? So the environment is very tightly controlled by the trainers. They use loaded language and cliches, concepts like white privilege, toxic masculinity, right? Heteronormativity are used as manipulative jargon to shame and silence dissent. Hopefully all of this makes sense. Hopefully you recognize this immediately in the culture that we live in today. You see this in your own life or with things you've heard, things you see on the news. Yeah, exactly. I said guilt and shame earlier and fear. Yes. Okay. But hopefully I'm giving structure to it. I'm giving you clarity in terms of these are the tools, these are the methods. And these are tools used by these totalitarian regimes, and we're seeing them used by the woke. The woke is a totalitarian idea. Right? They are trying to implement a totalitarian regime, and this is why you must resist it. Confession and re-education. Yes, Black Lives Matter. Yeah, I used to put on Facebook. I got banned a handful of times on Facebook called because I used to write I used to say Black Lives Matter. So that's what I used to call it, Black Lives Matter. Some people took offense to that for some reason. In fact, it's crazy when I had Caucasians calling me an Uncle Tom. And I was the wrong kind of black. So, anywho, Mick M, all lives matter. You know that's a hate crime, right? That's right. So now participants have to confess their sins of racism, right? Of sexism, of bigotry, even if they committed no offenses. They must then be re-educated. Now, this reminds us of the Stalinist gulags just brought to a university or a corporate boardroom near you, right? And you have to then conform to the approved way of thinking. Even if you don't believe it internally, you have to conform outwardly if you want to keep your job. Sign on the dotted line, bigot. So the aim is to dismantle individual identity because they are collectivists, and they want to remake your identity in the image of the ideologues behind the training, right? Understand, these people are indoctrinators, and they want to remake your mind in their image. So they also give you a false choice between either accepting the belief system or being labeled as morally defective, because they will label you as morally defective. The correct response to that is go F yourself, right? Now, this, of course, robs people of independent thought and autonomy of belief. They take away your individualism, right? You no longer, you become a herd animal. Understand, you need to guard against this, and this is what is happening today, right? DI training is a harmful, toxic practice. We need to reject it. We need to condemn it. Right, moving on. So they attack individual freedom of thought. The interest in the welfare of the group, we've discussed that earlier in the first episode, supersedes individual autonomy. So it's always doctrine over people, even if those ideas are completely irrational. You've seen Black Lives Matter or Black Lives Matter. You saw they would burn down black businesses. Black people were killed. Did they care? No. Doctrine over people. You know that more, like something like 85, 95% of black people are killed by black people. One white guy, right? And that's a very, statistically, right? White on black violence is extremely low. It's a minuscule fraction of black on black crime, right? They will over-exaggerate that. And when a black kills a black, it's like crickets, silence. Why? Doctrine over people. They don't care about people. They care about the agenda. Facts don't matter to them, right? So you had doctrine over people, which required re-education under these oppressive regimes, right? The group has to re-educate you so that you never disagree with the group ideology. Conociendo says, here's my big problem. I was a high school teacher in my country. I'm Colombian, and it seems to me parents are not doing their job and then send their children to school. Yeah, and the teachers will miseducate them. Yeah, right. They will use violence. They will use threats. Black people who do not conform are no longer black. They are politically white, right? You're not politically black. A white person can then insult that black person because that white person is politically black. I've had black Americans who've never seen Africa from anything other than maybe a TV set say to me, I am more African than you, Lloyd, because I'm blacker than you. I'm like, the correct, proper term for that is go yourself, right? So, yeah. And of course, yeah, they know what's best for me because ideology. Carl Kane, welcome. Right, so black people who do not conform are no longer black, while whites who insult them are politically black. See, they are politically black and therefore they can tell you. Doxing and harassment, you know this happens. There's retaliation if you disagree. This includes posting private information about individuals online, sending them threatening messages, and even trying to get them fired. Right? Silencing opposing views. Trans activists have tried to shut down events or discussions where they disagree with, right? So, in other words, you go and talk somewhere, and then, of course, they get these speakers at universities cancelled. And universities are supposed to be bastions of free speech, right? Trans activists have tried to shut down events or discussions that they disagree with, and they will protest. They will disrupt events where speakers were discussing the concepts of biological sex. Now you see it on campus with this whole Palestine thing. Like, climate activists are now also Palestine activists, right? You see these things, that whole merging of these ideas. They're all totalitarian. They all have the same goals. Later on, they'll fight each other over who's going to win, but right now, they hate white people. They hate America, they hate freedom, they hate logical thought, they hate Christianity, they hate the West. They're agreed on that, and they'll fight together against you, and then afterwards they'll fight each other, and they'll kill each other to decide who takes political power. Right, color for a black man brings him or her more attention as well as ego boost as well as rights, and believer who thinks like black knows exactly what the blacks are going through. Yeah, look, I mean, I come from Africa. I think I have a small clue. I've traveled through Africa. I've traveled through a lot of the world. I think I know what black people think, and you are not going to like it. You don't want them in Europe. I don't want them in Europe. I got away from Africa to get away from that kind of mentality, and it's now been imported, and it's here, and it's going to be a problem. You have no idea what you've imported, right? Yeah, Greta is now correct. The Palestine, yeah. All right, let's continue. So the notion that the interests and welfare of the group supersedes individual autonomy, okay, is a lie used to justify human rights abuses, right? Because think about look at Hamas in Palestine. They will happily hide underground, launch missiles, and then of course Israel has to retaliate to save its own people. They have to bomb a school or a hospital where these missiles are being launched from, the roof of a school or from, or something like that. And then, of course, there are people there, innocent civilians, or these civilians are giving their lives in jihad, right? They get reward from Allah. People don't realize that's part of the doctrine, right? Many of them are volunteering. They are happily, but remember, these people are expected to die for the political aim of Hamas, for the political ideology of Islam, for the deen. So that's exactly how that is. Doctrine over people. Right? No collective good is more important than the basic dignity and freedom of the individual. For example, the practice of re-education under these regimes relies on this to force individuals to conform to ideology. Okay, now collectives always disrespect the individual. Any collective always disrespects the individual. So claiming that individual and an identity and thought must be subservient to the will of the group or nation, it excuses stripping people of their rights and subjecting them to manipulation, coercion, and violence, except with state sanction, becomes law. In lots of places, if you misgender someone, you can end up in court. You will spend hundreds of thousands. You will go broke. You'll be bankrupt. You'll be humiliated publicly in the papers, on social media, and you'll end up homeless. right? You know this, that's what they do, because it has state sanction. We see this, we need to start fighting back against this. What reason some seem to be more prone to enter such cults? Well, I mean, look very simply, strong values in a home, right? Very strong values in a home. You need that, strong values. Christianity is a bulwark against this. Something I showed yesterday was, remember they told everyone that the Bible is fake and now the kids are gay? It's as simple as that, right? Because Christianity and the morals that came from the Bible was a bulwark, a defense against this. And therefore they have to destroy those morals, right? Remember, demoralize, destroy those morals, introduce new morals, right? So now black people who don't conform are no longer black, while whites are politically black, and therefore this is all justified, okay? Racism is then justified. It's not even racism. And this is malice. It's used to enforce conformity. So what they're suggesting is that racial identity is not intrinsic to the individual. If you're a black conservative, you're not properly black. You're white. You have internalized racism. You've been internally colonized. Your mind has been colonized by whiteness. Do you understand? They have excuses for everything. So what happens is your racial identity is defined by whatever ideological beliefs you have, okay? So authorities can anoint you or condemn you based on your belief and behavior. And you can be a woman and you can be a man, etc. The same concept just spreads into other areas. So if you don't fall in line, your racial identity and your humanity will be stripped from you. Ideological enemies will have a false racial label imposed on them as a mark of insult. Okay? So this shows that the supposed interests and welfare of the group are used to justify stripping individuals of autonomy, reason, and conscience. These are offenses against conscience. That goes against the American Constitution. At least you have that as a legal standard, even though it might well be ignored, right? Now, this does not lead to any collective good, but just accumulation of power over the individual. That's all it is. That's where this takes us. That's where woke is going. That's where it is already. All right, now, trauma-based mind control. So the incoherence and contradiction employed in these authoritarian tactics are a deliberate strategy. So understand the terror, the confusion, the incoherence. These are not accidents. These are deliberate tactics. You're very welcome, Thistledownsy. Thank you for that. Yeah. All right. So they need to remove a feeling of safety and certainty in your own mind and own judgment. They need you to start to begin to doubt. They need to inject doubt into your mind. Don't believe your lying eyes. That's a woman. Accept it. Right? That is coercion, but there's another word for that. It's peer pressure. Right? That's controlling your mind through peer pressure, forcing you. These are some of the tactics they're going to use, right? So when logical reasoning and objective facts no longer seem to apply, this undermines a sense of stability, right? This is now social disruption. And you no longer trust your own ability to discern truth. Well, you then need to turn to authority for what is truth. They will tell you what is true at that given moment. That is now a woman, right? And this creates a vulnerability that they can exploit. That's one of the methods they will use to break your mind. That's mind control. That literally is it. It's nonsense, exactly, Just Janice. Divide and conquer, correct. The world rulers are all white. Maybe not all of them. I don't think so. People in Africa tend to be black, I've noticed. So they don't care about black yellow. They care about creating mass formation psychosis. And then, I mean, like they need some method of getting people to believe the same thing, right? Konospiros is a Mauritanian goat herder. Well, yeah, I mean, I was mistaken for Beyonce in the mall a few days ago. I mean, like, hey, cool. Just shows my good looks. I still have it. Okay, so it's why they need to attack the nuclear family with both how welfare. Yeah, so if you read Marx, don't forget, Marx's Catechism of Faith, right? The Communist Manifesto has 10 principles, like the 10 Commandments, and one of those is the disruption of the nuclear family, the destruction of the nuclear family. Marx wrote that. They wrote that this is going to be seen as highly controversial, it's going to be contested, people are not going to like it, but you must break up and destroy the family unit. And that is one of the critical issues. And of course, the family unit, in terms of marriage, that's a Christian institution, right? So Corin says, I work with Arabs in Israel, and even at work, there's extreme hatred for Jewish workers. Yeah, we are maybe 10% of the workforce and never get promoted. Terrorism in the workplace. Yes, exactly. I've told people, I've had discussions with people about this, and it's something that they might find strange, but black people are generally taught to hate white people. Now, no, I'm not saying every black person hates white people, but they will, in terms of a baseline within the community, as a baseline mentality, that is it. That is the standard. You are seen as someone who took from them, right? You stole something from them. God knows what, but whether the idea is true or not, it's not rational even, but there's this belief, understand? You must understand that to a very large degree, doesn't have to be everybody, doesn't need to be everybody, it just needs to be enough people. And believe me, there are enough that feel this way. They hate you. You need to understand that this is the case. Okay? And you're dealing with the mentality that isn't logical, isn't rational. So you need to factor this into your thinking. You do not give an inch to people that hate you. You don't give power and authority to people that hate you and will undermine you and stab you in the back. They rely, but also there's this conflict within them, because on the one hand, they feel superior. On the other hand, they know they're inferior. They know that you're better because you're better educated. You get results. Their countries are poop holes, as you know. Understand? So they've got this conflict and they hate you for that. So it doesn't make sense. But that's the whole point. It's designed to be irrational. It's designed to be destructive. It's designed to create class warfare. That's part of what communism wants, what socialism wants. It's jihad, right? It's class jihad. So Muriel says, same in Native American families. Lloyd is like the character Winston Smith in the novel, the George Orwell novel. Exactly. It doesn't make sense. It's not meant to make sense. There's a logic behind it, but it's meant to be irrational. So thank you very much for the donation. Alhamdulillah, Yeshua, we are following Christ. There's no need for skin shades. Lloyd, can we get some tips at some point on spiritual warfare? Yeah, I would need to think about something of that and put something together. But here's the thing. So, look, I mean, maybe it's the demon Beelzebub. I don't know. Maybe it's a demon called Jennifer. Who knows? That's outside of my pay grade. But those entities are going to operate in the real world, right? And in the real world, we can do something. Here's where we can take practical steps, right? So whatever might be happening at a pay grade above mine, they've got to do things in the physical world, and these people are going to do certain predictable, consistent things. And these are the things I can deal with. These are the issues that we can, on a practical, social, operational level, recognize, counter. Okay? So let's continue. They foster dependence on the authority, determining right think by destabilizing and disorienting their targets. Because it's confusing. You're trying to be logical, and these people are not. They are being criminal. You must see them as criminal, right? By trapping people in a maze of illogic and absurdity, it psychologically traumatizes them into seeking the assurances of those claiming to define reality. Because you turn to authority and say, please make it make sense. And then they don't. Understand? So once this dynamic is in place, the ideological authorities assuming control over truth and morality, they will always want to change morality, can also determine identity, purpose, and value for those who are dependent upon them. So you need an external source of your validation. So that would have to be your faith, right? But you need some sort of concrete idea of something objective. You need some kind of external objective reality. So for that, I would say you're going to need a couple of things. One of those would be loyalty to your country, patriotism. You need patriotism, right? You need to know your country's civics. Like for Americans, that's know your Bill of Rights, right? Know your Constitution, right? And then, of course, for anyone else, for the rest of us, we need to family, God, family, and country, right? Those basic things. So you need to rally around the flag, because if you cannot rely on these external sources, then you've got to find these other things. So, logic, ethics, and conscience are ultimately replaced by obedience to power alone. And that's the Sharia. That's exactly, I've read this before, and I've gone through the Reliance of the Traveler. And that's what it says in the Sharia, right? The authorities, the religious authorities will tell you what the truth is. They will decide for you. This is not for your conscience to decide. This is Sharia. It's exactly the same idea. The incoherence of the beliefs being imposed no longer matter, as they are not meant to make sense, but to destabilize and overpower the individual. You become so confused that you give up. You collapse in on yourself. Let me see. Mag says, hi, I've seen this hate in Wisconsinites about Illinoisians. Yeah, inferiority, jealous, perceived superiority, not malicious until necessary to judge an action. Yeah, this is what happens. Yeah. So understand, this is the mentality that's loose in the world, right? And hopefully you're starting to recognize now, given what I'm showing, you're starting to recognize and see that this is what's behind these ideas. And then, of course, this is how these ideas are expressed, right? This is how they make themselves manifest in the world. We can only do this. I think that from a practical point of view, as an engineer or someone, I can deal with things as they are manifested in the world on a practical level, right? So the solution, you have to remain grounded in foundational principles of reason, objective moral standards, and human liberty. Do not accept as fact anything that contradicts objective truth or ethics. Be vigilant. Understand? Know what is true. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Right? Hopefully this is making sense as we go. All right. Now, trauma control techniques. Psychological trauma, confusion, and distress are means of manipulation and control. Some techniques include traumatic bonding. You induce loyalty and dependence on your captors through intense abuse, right? And then relief from that abuse. This creates a damaging emotional bond. They have to bond to receive relief and endure the abuse to earn relief. So this, you see this in very, very bad relationships, right? Toxic relationships, where a guy beats the wife, right? She's beaten and he's sorry, and then she really wants to love him. She wants him to love her, but so she has to bond with him, right? Once there is a bond, it's hard to break the bond. So he'll abuse her, but she has to survive the abuse to get him to be nice. That's just, you've got to weather that storm to get to the point where he's nice and sweet, and then the cycle just continues and continues, right? But it breaks you down. So that's a sick relationship. So don't be deceived by that. Yeah. Right. Now, you've also got to think maybe this is where you are coerced. Maybe it's at work. Maybe it's by the government, but you are coerced, and then they give you relief. They'll give you a cookie because you went through the coercion, you survived it, right? Because they're going to have to pay you at the end of the month. You have to deal with the abuse because they're going to pay you at the end of the month. And then they are nice to you for a few minutes, and then they abuse you again, and then back and forth. Understand? That's a very poor dynamic. Double bind. Okay, you give contradictory messages simultaneously so that no matter what the victim does, they will be wrong, right? Silence is violence. White silence is violence. Speech is violence. Your silence is violence, but your speech is violence. Okay, don't be racist. Black people can't be racist. Whites are born racist. Do you understand the confusion? There is no way out. It's a trap no matter what you do. Again, it's not meant to make sense. It's meant to destabilize you, to demoralize you, to destroy you, right? So this sets up a feedback loop of confusion and helplessness. So guys, on this point, am I making sense? Do these ideas, can you relate these to things in the real world? Does this all make sense to you? Is this something that you can relate to and see as, well, especially can you relate it to woke and to what's happening in society today? Yeah, the Johnson administration destroyed the black family, not to mention all the poor white families. Yeah, they flog you and then they say, good boy for taking the punishment. Only flog you half as hard for a while. Yeah. John Cody, thanks a lot, Lamaine. Yes, but good points, right? So there's a method to the madness. There is a reason behind the madness. Gaslighting. So they will systematically, metaphysical joke says you always make sense. Thank you. Great to hear. Just Janice, definitely. Thank you. Right, so gaslighting. You systematically call into question the victim's memory, right? Your lying eyes, don't believe your lying eyes. Well, what, right? You question their perception. You question their sanity, right? To destabilize the truth and their sense of self, because truth is objective, right? And they want you to start to see truth as subjective. Truth is what you are told it is, right? So this undermines and ruins your sense of self. This detaches you from reality. You must be detached from your morals. You must be detached from your values. You must be detached from objective truth. These are the same techniques in the MK Ultra program. Yes, this is standard brainwashing, mind control. This is what it is. This is literally, and this is woke. That's a woman. That's a woman's penis. Do you understand the contradiction? That's what you have to learn to accept, right? So they make you doubt your own mind and your own judgment. The correct answer to this is to say F off, all right? Love bombing, excessive praise and attention. You know for a fact, Muslims do this with women. You know for a fact this happens. Love bombing, excessive praise and attention, and affection are used to manipulate the victim into becoming psychologically and emotionally bonded with the controlling group or leader before the introduction of harmful dynamics. Conociendo el Islam, I'm sorry about that. I'm lost in translation, but I'm trying to understand it. Yeah, hopefully my explanations will make sense. I mean, you can always, I can always try and, I can actually do translations into Spanish or something like that. That is not impossible with AI these days. This all does lead to Gnosticism, which is really a form of extreme pride. It's just self-pride, stubborn pride. And that's the greatest of the 7 deadly sins, right? So love bombing and, of course, the traumatic bonding, these would go together. This all reminds me of the BITE model that cults use: behavior control, information control, thought control, and emotional control. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, if the subjective truth is tempted to accept a lie, such as homosexuality is normal, then even the ones who think subjectively that such will doubt this. Yeah, exactly. But nothing is, because you cannot form your own concept of truth. You must be told by the outside authority what is true. That's the Sharia. So brainwashing and thought reform, forcibly changing a person's beliefs and attitudes through coercive persuasion or coercive control techniques, right? So forcing you to accept something. So highly manipulative psychological conditioning to conform thinking to a single approved ideology, right? So cult indoctrination, right? Employing a combination of deception, loaded language, social pressure, and other mind control techniques to promote unquestioning devotion to the leader or the group, right? So you remove autonomy of belief and identity. You'll notice these things all overlap. They all interweave, right? Okay, cult confession. That's the 4th in that list of 8 things that are common across these totalist and totalitarian groups. CRT training, that's exactly the DEI training. That's exactly what this is, Molly and Stewart. Yeah, it's the same thing. So totalist groups may employ a practice of cult confession, in which the members are required to disclose their thoughts and actions to ensure their continued loyalty to the group. So in Maoist China, people had to publicly confess their thought crimes and be subjected to re-education. Well, of course, you as a white person, you have to be not just non-racist, you have to be anti-racist. You have to actively hate yourself, because white people are born racist. So for you, it's not even good enough to confess. You have to, in fact, understand there's no forgiveness in their theology. This is a theology without forgiveness. You have no redemption. That's it. You are guilty forever. Right? So your thought crimes have to be confessed, and then you have to be re-educated through forced labor. Right? You have to refuse. So if you don't confess, then it's going to be harsh punishment. And this created a culture of fear and enforced loyalty to the Communist Party ideology. Right? These struggle sessions, as James Lindsay will talk about quite often. So in Scientology, members had to undergo auditing with the lie detectors to confess their sins, their fears, and any critical thoughts about the church. Of course, when you do these confessions, they also have material to blackmail you with. They will control you with blackmail and shame. So this information is used to manipulate and blackmail members into staying in the organization. And refusing auditing or failing to confess can result in being declared a suppressive person. Sweet name for something bad, I guess. Yeah, so in the Soviet Union, citizens were required to attend self-criticism sessions where they had to confess any critical opinions of the government or deviation from communist orthodoxy. Failure to confess would mean being reported to authorities and neighbors, resulting in imprisonment or forced labor. This installed paranoia and enforced conformity. And you'll see people, you've seen this online, okay? North Korea currently demands cult-like worship of their leaders and enforced devotion to Juche, right, the state ideology. You have self-criticism sessions, you spy on your friends and your neighbors, that's the same as in Islam. And you have a culture of fear around any non-conformity, right? And this, of course, is a way to control the population, right? North Koreans have to confess disloyalty to escape harsh crackdowns, even if none exists. So if you've done nothing wrong, you still have to claim that you've done something wrong so that they can punish you, and that's an abusive relationship. We're back into this abusive relationship cycle. And Luisa Zamora says, I'm Mexican. This madness of difference in skin tone has permeated our country. I met the term white-sicken. Wow. Recently. Wow. That is insane. So there are 3 subjective truths being preached in all 3 main paganism, including Islam. They glorify the self. Glorify the self means the original sin. Yeah. So, okay. So Yeah, this is a twisted version of the public confession practiced in the early church. That is actually really interesting. That's a fair point. That's actually a fair point, Oatex. I didn't notice that, but you're right. Yeah. Yeah, it's all like, remember, communism, socialism, Marxist ideas, all of these things are corruptions of Christianity. Even atheism started as a religion, all of these modeled on the Catholic model, right? And then corruptions of the Catholic model. Yeah. So, forced confession, whether through physical coercion, manipulation, or a culture of fear, is all used for mind control. You suppress individuality, you control thought, and you demand absolute obedience. So you make people betray their conscience and their judgment. This creates guilt and shame. This destroys their sense of self, right? This really breaks people down. And it brings them under the power of those defining their ideology, right? It's a very, very effective means of mental and emotional enslavement. And I think we all see this today. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say we see this today, right? So worship of sacred science. Now we've seen this. How dare you eat that steak? How dare you drive that car, right? How dare you think of going on that flight if you're not a billionaire with their own jet? Totalist groups, they employ a concept called sacred science, in which their ideology is presented as the only correct and valid way of understanding the world. I am the science. My name is Fauci, right? You have to take the jab. You have to this. The climate cult. Exactly. It's all sacred science, the unquestionable ideology. They present it as if the group's work is essential for their own survival. They all are presenting, everyone's going to die unless you do X. Everyone's going to die unless you take this. Everyone's going to die unless you separate your garbage. Understand? Again, we're back to the threat of the against self, the threat of survival. We discussed that as point 8. So again, these points all overlap. They have points where they merge. So yeah. When I worked for government bureaucracy, we were annually subjected to program audit by central office so that we would confess our failings to those above us. Yeah, that gives them leverage. They can blackmail you. They can control you, emotionally manipulate. Yeah, but that's... So, same in Puerto Rico. Light skin versus dark skin versus Puerto Ricans, yeah. Same for the rules for thee, not to me. Yes, there is no climate crisis. Yeah, I don't believe any of that nonsense. I mean, that's all trash. It's demonic, yes. All right, now, by presenting the ideology as infallible and scientific, it's the science. But, hold on, but you said something different yesterday. No, the science changes. And I imagine the morals change. That's what Muslims say. Well, it was okay when Mo was stupping Aisha at 9, and now it's not okay. Yeah, the morals changed. Do you understand? That is subjectivity. That is moral relativism. That is relativism. That is not a foundation you can build on. We will say whatever is convenient at the moment to push our ideology forward. We have no solid bedrock. That's exactly what they're dealing with here. So, but they want you to have unquestioning obedience. They're always right, but sometimes the science changes, right? And obviously progressives, they preach cancel culture, identity politics, and political correctness. And this is political correctness gone wild. Don't give them an inch. So they want conformity of thought, conformity of speech, and any dissenters are bigots, and they will silence opposition, right? These teachings are supposed to be irrefutable moral truths, not open to debate. The science is settled. Remember that term? The science is settled. It's not open for debate. This is what the woke do. This is exactly it. Environmental groups, of course, they preach imminent catastrophe and a need for draconian government control of people's lives to save the planet, the greatest cause, right? The whole spiritual cause, the greater good. You understand how, again, this is evident, very evident, in what we're seeing around us today, these totalitarian control methods. So this apocalyptic, this end times, again, it's corruption of the biblical idea of the end times. This apocalyptic message is meant to instill fear and a sense that only the group's radical agenda can ensure survival. However, when you comply with the agenda, you know things get worse, things fall apart, things break, because ultimately it is a death cult. They want to bring an end times. They want to destroy, because they're Gnostics. And the only way that they can find salvation is to destroy the body, to destroy matter, because matter is evil, the earth is evil, creation is evil, and they must escape, and they have to destroy everyone and everything to achieve their salvation. Do you understand? So ultimately, they are preaching one thing, and they're doing another. That's the contradiction inherent in this. Media outlets, they openly campaign for progressive causes under the guise of journalism. These are activists, not journalists. That's the sacred science. They push this through the media. So peddling propaganda and half-truths to manipulate public opinion, claiming moral high ground as arbiters of truth, right? Their biased and flawed reporting is above question. So you're going to have to start questioning. You're going to have to arm yourself with the facts. But hopefully this will make sense. This is part and parcel of what totalitarians do. And we've seen all of these things happening today, right? So language control, a reminder, silence is violence, but speech is violence. So what is violence then? Speech is not violence. Speech can be nasty, but yeah. So don't have babies. Yeah, don't have babies. Abort all your kids. Oh my God, we have a birth crisis. We have a childbirth crisis. Oh my God, we're running out of people. Our population's dwindling. We've got to import the rest of Africa. Maybe you shouldn't tell people not to have babies and to abort everybody. Then you won't need to import half of the third world, right? Understand? It's incoherent, but it's all in service of an agenda. Totalist groups employ a form of language control in which they use specific terminology and linguistic manipulation to reinforce the ideology and maintain control. So this manipulation of language shapes how you think. Language shapes how you think, right? And so language shapes the world, how you perceive the world. Jubernardi, welcome. So this further solidifies the group's power and influence, and language, using language in a very controlled and manipulative manner, they can create new terms and new meanings. They will redefine terms, right? How they redefine terms is dependent on them. So when you use the word faith, for instance, does it mean the same thing that they mean? Do you mean it in the same way, right? Do they define it in the same way? Does it have the same components, right? The understanding. So you use the same terms, but they mean them in a different way. And often their way is designed to mimic yours, but actually deviate radically. So be careful, right? And so these terms are designed to support their ideology, but they're mimicking yours. So the language of reality denial. So there's 8 points, right? So we're at point number 6 now. The ocean is filling with plastic. Yeah, you're not going to write. Yeah, exactly. Right. The ocean is filling with, yeah, of course, all of this. It's just, it's designed, don't forget, it's designed to create confusion, it's designed to create fear and doubt. It's trauma-based mind control. They don't invest in society to fix low birth rates. They just implement the solution that if they had, yeah. It's an agenda. Of course it's an agenda, right? So you need to understand the methods that they use. These are the practical methods they will employ. The more you understand them, the more you can call BS on them. So, 1, they control the media. In terms of the language of reality denial, right, they control the media. Cisgender, exactly. It's a slur, really. So the use of, in fact, normally what they've taken is basic biology and turned it into an insult, right, turned it into something shameful. So the use of terms like alternative facts, they want to discredit opposing viewpoints and control the narrative. Mystic manipulation, they use terms like woke and allyship, my allyship, to create a sense of moral superiority and bonding. We're allies, we're good guys. You see, we cooperate with people. You cisgender, heteronormative Caucasians, you guys don't want to be part of this whole chicks with dicks movement, and so you guys are, we look at the community we're building. You guys are just divisive because you won't. You look at our wonderful allyship. That you understand the ideas here. It's all turned upside down and backwards. The main term of which takia is a subterm. The concept is called hiyal, Hiyal. Okay, so the main form within Islam of legal, what's called technically legal trickery, it's hiyal, and then everything else falls under that. Taqiyya is one specific method of deception. It's got 2 definitions. One is tactical deceit to promote Islam, tactical in terms of military, right? That's as in military tactic. But of course, it's got social application even to individual Muslims, but technically they are part of the war. And then, of course, you've got the other one, which is taqiyya, which is where you tell a lie that's like the lesser of 2 evils. Let's think of it that way, which is you can morally justify it, but they don't tell you that the first meaning is the tactical deceit to spread Islam, right? And so that is from a military perspective applied to individuals. And then, of course, you've got multiple other methods of deceit. There are plenty of methods, at least 8 of them that we know of. Yeah. You will own nothing. You'll be happy. Owning anything makes you oppressor. Yeah, you'll just lease your cell phone and give them back. You don't have to own anything. Things like that. You've seen it on TED, right? So, so these terms give them a sense of moral superiority, but also belonging, right? Look at our allyship. See, we get along. We get along, right? right? Now, purity obsession. They use terms like intersectionality that emphasize the importance of multiple layers of oppression and the need for purity, right? So there's more of those boxes you can tick off, the better, right? Cult confession. They use terms like privilege and microaggressions to encourage self-confession and guilt. So you see, in terms of the whole cult confession, right, the cult of confession, you have privilege. You need to confess your privilege. That was a microaggression. You need to confess to the poor black guy your microaggression, to that woman. Do you understand? These terms all support these things, right? So that's where you have the language that supports each of these ideas. The worship of sacred science. There's a climate emergency. Gender is a social construct, right? Well, that comes from nominalism, a discredited philosophical system. But you see, gender is a social construct. It's not a biological reality. So that's mind-warping ideas, and but that's science now, apparently, right? So they want to promote urgency or a particular ideological agenda under the guise of science. And the control of language use and function. So you redefine common terms like inclusive, female bodies. That becomes chest feeders. You guys are chest feeders now, to disassociate biological reality from mind and promote an ideological agenda. Again, you're creating dissociation. Dissociation is not a good term psychologically. It means you're gone cuckoo, okay? To be dissociated, you're schizophrenic. You're heading in that direction, right? And off the deep end and over the cliff, right? Understand, disassociation is not good. Yeah, Ireland is, let's hope Ireland is not lost. Okay, next point, doctrine before people. So doctrine above people means that the group's belief system, their ideology or dogma, is considered more important than the well-being of individual members. Did I already cover Jonestown, how Jim Jones was an atheist masquerading as a preacher? Atheism is a religious system. If you look at the founders of atheism, I've covered that in my atheism series and my socialism series, where I've talked at length about atheism. It was founded as a religious system modeled on Catholicism, right? They took the principles of social cohesion and other practices that they knew were effective, and then they modeled their ideas, the ideologies after that. So, uterus people. Yeah, exactly. Rotom electric. So, hopefully, guys, if you like this content, I know that what I discuss is fairly contentious. But again, my background that I come from is, I was never in the military, but I worked alongside the military and I worked alongside government, designing surveillance systems designed to detect, track, and intercept bad people doing bad things. And I had to think like a bad person, so I had to understand how criminals think, right? How would I commit the crime? Those are questions that I had to ask, right? So my understanding of criminal behavior, my working in the field of trying not to die, which was one of the aspects of my job on occasion, or trying not to have other people die. My job was to make sure that they didn't die so we all could go home at night. These are things that taught me how criminals think. And you need to understand these things so you can start to recognize the threats and respond. So, be ungovernable. In this case, you need to be ungovernable. Don't let them grind you down. Do not cooperate. Right, so doctrine above people, right, means these crappy ideas above the value of people's dignity, right? People are expected to serve the doctrine rather than the doctrine serving the people. The ideas are important whether they're irrational or not. So a cult will demand extreme sacrifices from members. You have to cut off contact with outside friends and family. That's what happens when you, right? Islam, right? You cut off friends and family because, right? That's it. Because otherwise they might convince you that you're wrong, right? You donate all your money and your possessions to the group, and you even form suicide pacts. So cult doctrine is more precious than any individual life. Authoritarian regimes put utopian ideals of the system above basic needs and human rights of citizens. Think about it. Look how poor, the poverty that gripped Eastern Europe, where I live now, right? These were the poorest countries in Europe, well behind Western Europe, because they didn't care about the citizens. They don't care about that. The poverty is just what's going to happen. They don't care about you. So the march toward a socialist paradise justifies any amount of human suffering. But understand, at the end of the day, they have to kill you all because they're Gnostics. How else do they find redemption? By returning their souls and merging with the monad unless everyone dies. So, death cult. right? So no amount of human suffering, oppression, or death is a problem. It's all okay. It's all justified. No, look at Hamas. No matter how many civilians die, well, as long as they're killing Jews, it's all good. So the abstract doctrine is sacred. People are expendable. Adrian Ionescu, thank you very much. The suicide pact reminded me of Masada. Yeah, same idea, but I don't think that was part of the ideology. Rather, because if they were caught, right? Remember, they were fighting against the Romans. You know what's crazy? The Romans were not exactly friends of Christianity, right? Romans were not exactly friends. And they had certain, and I don't see people criticizing them for that. You don't see it. Like, for instance, like there's the idea of Pantera in the Talmud, right? And the Jews wrote that story into the Talmud, which they got from the Romans, and then people go, those Jews are horrible, disgusting. Look, they copied a Roman story, wrote it into the Talmud. That's what the Romans are saying. And everyone goes, oh, those darn Jews. And then what about the Romans? Oh, the Romans are awesome, lovely, we love them. What if the Romans are blaspheming against Christ? We're okay with that. We're hypocrites. We just hate Jews. Do you understand? That's the standard Christian position on that. They don't care. Romans can insult Christ whole day, every day, right? Doesn't matter. But if the Jews tell the same story the Romans said, it's like, oh my God, those Jews, they need to be killed. Do you understand? That's the blasphemy and that's the hypocrisy we deal with on a regular basis. Now, these Jews, in that sense, back to topic, the Jews did not want to go back into slavery, right? They would rather kill themselves than be enslaved, be raped, be tortured. So rather than face that, right, they decided to die rather than have their freedom taken away. It's as simple as that, right? They held out for 2 years. I mean, that's quite amazing. All right. Now, so we see this in ideologies like radical environmentalism, right? Greta, how dare you? Or progressivism that elevates certain beliefs to the status of moral absolutes. Oceans are going to rise, people are going to die, you got to stop eating that burger, or the oceans are going to kill us all, right? And they demand strict conformity to those beliefs, right? Because they're trying to save the planet. It's a good cause, right? Stop eating burgers, stop eating meat, don't drive cars, be poor because we're saving the planet, you bigot, right? Pigs can fly. Yeah, sorry about a few minutes behind. No worries. Catherine M says, I got it. The story always confused me. Yeah, there's a lot of... Look, the Talmud is bizarre, okay? Bluntly, the Talmud's bizarre, but people lie about it whole day, every day. I can almost assure you 99% of what you're hearing about the Talmud is a bunch of lies. It's not to say the Talmud is not weird, okay? But, yeah. So the higher virtue of the doctrine itself justifies any policy, regardless of the impact of individual liberty. Remember, doctrine is always above people. The ends will always justify the means. Again, anti-Christian. What are your Christian values? Will you stand and fight for them? Will you activate and motivate politically for them, right? I mean, will you organize politically? Will you argue for your views? Will you push your views? Remember, they very successfully just a few years ago was saying, don't push your values on me. Don't force your morals on me. You know what they did? They forced their morals on you, and they started killing babies in the millions. Simple. Force your values on them. You have better values than these asswipes. Do not let them push their values anymore. We've tried. We've seen how bad they are. Push your values. The world was better under those values. So, temptation reached one of its finest successes once Judas, Jesus was son of a Jewish cop to that Zionist propaganda. Yeah, we all know he was king of the Jews. He was actually, something like that. I mean, I've seen some men on Twitter, you read and like, Jesus was not Jewish. You're like, huh? Like, have you actually read the Bible? Like seriously? So, okay, now, number 8 is dispensation of existence. There's a story in the Talmud. If I remember this correctly, I need to go back. It's been a long time since I've actually done the talks on the Talmud. There's a story of Jesus who goes to Egypt, right? Jesus is trained as a rabbi, and he goes to Egypt, and there he learns black magic, and he comes back as a witch who's trained in black magic, right? And then everyone's like, oh my God, we have to hate the Jews and probably kill all of them because that's what God wants. Because look what they're saying about Jesus. They called Jesus a witch. He was practicing black magic. He was evil. That story dates to like 100 BC, maybe 200 BC, if I recall correctly. So let me see. The story's 200 years before Jesus was born, but those Jews have to die because they're bad, and we Christians, we're going to hate them because that's what God wants. Like no. Do you understand the problem here? You've got a lot of uneducated people who are really just hateful bigots who are wrong, but they don't want to be told that. So, totalist groups, okay? So, dispensation of existence, it's the, oh my God, we're all going to die. The oceans are going to boil. We're going to die of, I don't know, the earth has a fever. All of that nonsense. You got to eat the bugs because, understand? So, yeah, the Romans converted, so they were ultimately, Jesus was a Jew. All the apostles were Jews, and the original Christians are all Jews, 100% of them, right? So, yeah, that does not excuse hatred for Jews, but yeah, so. Okay, right, so glad to see conservatives push back the left's agenda in the media with frank language. Yeah, look, yeah, I speak frankly. I speak very bluntly myself. That's a deliberate choice, okay? I made the deliberate choice to speak very plainly. Now, of course, it means when you say things plainly, it's like, well, do you know that jumping off a cliff that's 400 meters high may result in potential injury. It might also potentially result in severe harm or possibly even fatality. You know, that's how academics speak. Okay, I mean, man, you jump off a cliff that high, you're dead. It's that simple. I go for the obvious, very simple, flat statements, which just makes it easier. I don't want to go for, well, you know, it may be A, it could be B, but also there's the possibility. Yeah, we don't need that anymore. We've heard too much of the sophist language. Just let's be honest. Yeah, ask your doctor if it's right for you. A possible casualty, yeah. Ask your doctor if that might have potential deleterious causes, effects. You know, you want to consider this as part of the. Yeah, no, it's a bad idea. Shut up. You understand? We want to be able to say things that are factual and true, right? So I made the choice to speak frankly and bluntly. That's what Elon Musk did on the stage the other day. So, right. Totalist groups instill a belief that the group's survival is essential for members' own existence, right? Again, it's all about dependence and control, right? So cults preach that members will face eternal damnation or the end of the world without the group, right? So if you leave the group, you know what happens. When you leave the group, you know how they insult you. You were never a real Muslim, okay? So they create a crisis mentality and loyalty through fear, right? Authoritarian regimes very typically claim that the state's survival is necessary to protect citizens from dangerous outside threats. We saw that with Mustache Man, that guy, right? So dissent endangers society and it justifies very harsh punishment. So loyalty is enforced through fear of the other. And you see this with there's this one Christian fool, right-wing twat on YouTube. What's his name? He's banned as well, but there's this young dude, and I've listened to this guy talk, and I'm like, he has no idea what he's talking about. But anyway, okay, so yeah, but he hates Jews, and it's like, the Jews this, we have to, yeah, like sure, kill all the Jews and the problems in the world will all go away. Yeah. So failure to comply with woke ideology is framed as putting marginalized groups in danger. Oh my God, what about marginalized people? Like you know what was her name? Charlene Gay, whatever it was. You know, the rector of Harvard, the director of Harvard. It's like, you know, that was racist. It's like, no, she was a plagiarist, right? She was a plagiarist. She was incompetent, and she was endorsing violence against a minority at her university, right? So she provided no moral objectivity, and so yeah, she deserved to be thrown out. And yeah, but they'll say no, that is hatred and racism against the black person. Yeah, what about she enabled hatred and racism against other groups? But that doesn't matter, understand? So there are harsh consequences like Claudine Gay, exactly, that fool, right? She deserved all the humiliation she gets, right? Yeah, but of course she keeps her job and $900,000 a year, right? So, but they will justify public shaming, job loss, violence, all of that, for you taking a stand. But that's the price we have to be willing to pay for speaking the truth, for standing up, right? If honestly, you're going to have to stand up. At some point, everyone has to stand up. So environmental groups tell you that catastrophic change will happen. You'll be dooming humanity unless we adopt a very extreme anti-human version of environmentalism that will make you poor, leave you starving, and kill off millions of you, right? They will destroy technology. They will take you back into the Stone Age. and humanity will go backwards, but it's all for the greater good, really. So anyone who questions this apocalypse is vilified as endangering the planet. This is standard apocalyptic stories. You got to just ignore this, right? You also have to, if you're going to engage in ideological warfare, you must provide a better narrative, a positive story, something with a better outcome, better ideas. You have to provide something more compelling. What story are you going to tell that's more compelling? You're going to have better arguments, but also a better story to appeal to people. Bear that in mind. So all of these media outlets, of course, they frame dissent from these progressive ideologies as a threat to democracy, right? We have to prevent people from voting for people legally because that's how we save democracy. That's happening in America now. Yeah, we have to remove, because they went from, well, if we can remove Trump from the ballot, we can remove all right-wingers. We can remove all Republican politicians from the ballot. That's already been floated. We can now remove all Republicans from the ballot, the whole lot of them. They take an inch, they take a mile. It's as simple as that. You give them an inch, they will take the mile. You let them ban Trump from the ballot, they're going to ban everybody in the Republican Party from the ballot because the legal precedent has been set. Understand? And that's what they're going to do. And that's a threat to democracy. So we have to destroy democracy to save democracy. Do you understand? These people make no sense. Nothing, right? So politicians and public figures who don't conform are described as dangerous. They've called Trump dangerous. They've called, you name it, everybody dangerous. So it's for the greater good. The feminist Gestapo has determined you have sinful thoughts, so you must be fixed. Exactly. My biggest pet peeve when they say this is an attack on our democracy. Notice, quotes, our democracy. Socialism. Their version of democracy, right? There's a very socialist version of that. That's their democracy, right? So the Novus Ordo is normal. You only cannot become a Gallic. Okay, I have no idea what's going on over there. Guys, here's the thing. If we all go back to the Latin Mass, we'll fix the Catholic Church. No, you won't. Because the problems were in the Catholic Church when you had the Latin Mass. The Latin Mass is not the issue. The problems happened while having the Latin Mass. That's not the fix. You've been indoctrinated with a false solution. Now, I'm not saying that going back to the Latin Mass isn't an improvement. It probably would be, right? The issue is that Vatican II has language that is supposed to be clearer, but it introduces ambiguity, and that ambiguity introduces uncertainty, and that uncertainty introduces doubt, and that's the problem. And that ambiguity can be exploited. Now, whether it's accidental or deliberate, that's the question. That's what we have to answer, right? Someone gave me grief about the Fiducia Supplicans, right? I've read some of that document, not every single word, but I've read the relevant sections, and they're very explicit and very clear, right? But there are other sections that are ambiguous, and it's just ambiguous enough to leave potential wiggle room. Now, when you look at the previous document from 2021 and you look at what Fiducia Supplicans says, they're very explicit. Nope, gay marriage, bad. All of that stuff, bad. But there's enough ambiguity there that just leaves room for you don't know what. And that little bit of doubt, that little bit of uncertainty, that lack of clarity, that's the issue with a lot of the documents. I looked at a lot of the documents since the 60s, and the lack of the difference in the language, there's a certain lack of clarity in the language, right? So there's something about that. So when we go earlier, the language is much clearer. When you go later, the language is not very clear. So there's a problem. Something happened. Certainly something happened in the language, and the language is a giveaway. Because when you're looking at a crime that's being set up, right, when you're talking to someone, they're not going to advertise it, but there's something about the way they communicate that tells you there's something weird. So there's something odd there. That's all I can say, and that needs to be looked at. Catherine M. Wasn't the Latin Mass designed to exclude the common worshiper from biblical knowledge? No, actually it was not. I mean, you know what, let me do something here. Let me bring something up, sorry. Okay. So yeah, guys, I'm gonna wind down in a couple of minutes, but thank you for your time so far. I hope this has been interesting, entertaining, and you've learned something. This is my talk on Luther. It is currently 60 pages. It's probably going to grow, but everyone's been asking me for a long time. Like a couple of years ago, I said I was going to be talking about Luther, and I finally am getting stuff together. right? So I'm getting work together on Luther, but the stories that Protestants have been telling about the Catholic Church are 99% lies, misrepresentations, a false narrative, okay? This is not to say that Catholics haven't done an absolutely terrible job of presenting Catholicism in a way that actually is accessible and doesn't use jargon that no one understands, because that is a problem too. But Martin Luther is critically responsible for a lot of the misconceptions, the lies, the propaganda. Martin Luther was a fantastically good propagandist. The man had no shame. All right. So, for instance, let me show you a couple of examples. So Luther writes, right? I mean, man, this talk on Luther is going to be detailed. It's going to be long. It's going to be, I'm going to go into his own words, his own writing. Okay. The Maeve, thank you very much. Can you tell me what kind of connections I've made for you? Because lately, I've tried to simplify the language that I'm using. I've been trying to use like 7th to 10th grade vocabulary deliberately again, because I know a lot of you are not English first language. English is your second language, so I'm trying to simplify the language I'm using. And I've noticed a lot more comments saying, I finally understand, it makes sense, the philosophy, how it connects to practical activities in the world today. People are starting to say, now I understand how we got here from there, and the connections. I'm getting a lot of positive comments like that, but I'd love to know from you, Maeve, what kind of connections you've made. Okay, hold on. We need to go back to the Hebrew. We need to speak Hebrew in our services. Look, the Latin Mass is great. I've actually done a couple out of curiosity. I've been a couple of times. Gregorian. I've done some Dominican, I think, Franciscan, I'm not sure which. But they're fantastic. I mean, it's amazing, I must admit. I've gone to a place where they did the chants. There's a monastery that's 1,000 years old here near Krakow. It was great. Let me see. Luther writes, Christ committed adultery. Now, you'll find apologists will go, well, that's a weak hadith. And you know what you say to Muslims when they claim something's a weak hadith? You tell them to F off. Now, unfortunately, when Protestants say this is a weak hadith, the correct answer is F off, right? So, because if we're going to have to throw the hadiths out, we're going to have to throw all of Luther's works out, because then Protestants are saying, well, yeah, all this embarrassing stuff, we're going to throw it all out. But all the good stuff he said, we're keeping. That means you're a hypocrite, right? But he did write, right? And this is written about Luther by one of his followers. Christ committed adultery. He said it. Just accept it. That's what we have. That's what the history says. First of all, Christ shagged the woman at the well. Let me paraphrase that. Jesus was shagging the woman at the well. And St. John says, wasn't everybody saying, what has he been doing with that chick? Okay. Secondly, Martin Luther says, he was shagging Mary Magdalene. And thirdly, Jesus was shagging the woman taken in adultery that he dismissed so lightly. Don't stone her, let her go. She's nice, she's sweet. I'm shagging her on the side, let her go. She's cool. I'm getting it on the side from her. This is what Mr. Martin Luther said. Now, F this guy. Seriously, the more I read Martin Luther, the more I realize what a disgusting pig he was. You have no idea how oh my God, if he was alive today, I would grab him by the throat and I would punch him in the face. Okay? Thus, even Christ, who was so righteous, must have been guilty of fornication before he died. No, Lloyd, he meant that metaphorically. No, not metaphorical, it is phorical. Trust me, it's 100% phorical. It is not metaphorical at all, just regular phorical. Okay? This is Martin Luther. This is the pig that created the Protestant movement. Okay? We're going to go into a lot of this stuff. This man is an absolute disgusting monster. That's my view of this man. Right? So let me continue. In some of his last letters, now I'm still busy working on this, right? In some of his last letters to his wife, Martin Luther described his inability to be sexually aroused by the sight of prostitutes, and he blamed the Jews for his illness. Hey, honey, I'm here with a prostitute, and she's not getting me hard, and I think the Jews are to blame. This is where you turn around and say, F this guy, I'm going back to the Catholic Church. Do you understand? This is my anger. This is my issue. This is written by, this is in a book by Lyndall Roper, I think, Martin Luther's Body, but the paper's available. But do you understand the problem here? Hey, honey, okay, who of you writes to your wife letters saying, hey, honey, I'm with a prostitute, but I can't get it up. And I think the Jews are responsible. Anyone done that lately? Raise your hand. Let me know. Drop a 1 in the comment if you've ever done that, because hell, I haven't, but Martin Luther has. And he's a great Christian. So do you understand my anger? Do you understand how angry this makes me? Okay? Yeah, he said that. He said that. Okay? Let me continue. Now, notice, Martin Luther was the twit who said every Christian is his own pope and his own church. Okay? But there's a long story. There's a lot to be unpacked here. There's a lot when Martin Luther realizes he made a boo-boo. Okay? And he says the apostles were not believed unless miracles aroused faith in their teaching. Right? So the apostles had to prove their faith, had to prove their knowledge through miracles. They had to prove that Jesus did miracles to prove, Moses did miracles to prove, right, that God is powerful. But he says nowadays, now this is the American translation. Understand, I'm not making this up. This is Luther's own words. It's just in the American translation. They're just using vernacular. Nowadays, every Tom, Dick, and Harry demands to be believed on the ground that he possesses the spirit of the gospel. Now, we've all heard this and you've done it. Some of you are guilty of this. No. You see, the Spirit, I've prayed and I felt the words and the voice of the Holy Spirit, and I'm interpreting the Bible, and I know I'm right because Martin Luther is saying that you fools, you believe that you possess the Spirit. He's going, yeah. So Martin Luther realized he made a mistake, and then he tried to fix it, but it was way too late. He'd already said that everybody is his own pope and his own church, and he interprets the Bible his own way. So problem is already out there. The can of worms had been opened, and the worms are not getting back in the can. But he admits to that. He admits to this right here. Everyone is claiming to be. So the founder of your religion is saying that you're talking poop. Okay? The founder of Protestantism is stating that when you make the claim, you're talking absolute poop. But of course, he made the same claims. He went overboard with these claims. Let me see what the comments say. My family's always had religions. Okay. Check the percentages of denominations in the US, the greatest believing nations. Yeah, actually the word denomination, I will be talking about the word denomination as well. That's actually very interesting. The word also needs to be analyzed. Okay. Let me see. Was he associating the small hats? I don't know how you mean that, because maybe you've got cavities, right? Maybe you haven't brushed your teeth and the Jews caused your teeth to get rotten. Who knows? That's the kind of thing that he was saying. And he says that the peasants did not stop at appropriating and misconstruing Luther's teachings, okay? They were urged on by other reformers, right? And then basically these peasants went and did some crazy things, and they killed a lot of people, and it created war. And their idea of society was a theocracy based on God's word. So they wanted a theocracy, right, written in scripture or revealed by the Spirit to chosen prophets. Now hold on. Prophets in the 16th and 17th century. Prophets. Okay, Martin Luther believed he was a prophet. He was revered as a prophet. It was the incitement by men such as these whom Luther called prophets of murder, which led to the bloody war of 1525. Right? So now you've got Luther inciting warfare, and there's a lot to be unpacked here about this, about how this guy created chaos and murder. Martin Luther was a very bad man. Yeah, there's a lot of Islam in that. He says here, okay, Luther criticized the Crusades. Okay? And he said here, to fight against the Turk is the same as resisting God. Okay? Equating the Turk, right, almost unequivocally with the will of God. In other words, the Turks should take over Europe. Now you'll go, well, Lloyd, you don't know, you're clearly uneducated, but you don't know that Luther actually criticized the Turks. Luther criticized the Turks, and he also criticized the Christians for fighting against the Turks. Luther would say 1 + 1 is equal to 3 on Monday, and 1 + 1 would be equal to 5 on Tuesday. 1 + 1 would be equal to 7 on Wednesday. Luther talked a bunch of bullshit all the time. Okay? What he said on Monday would contradict what he said on Tuesday, would contradict what he said on Wednesday, would contradict what he said the next week. Understand, Luther talked nothing but crap. Read his writings. And it's just like Islam. It's just like Muhammad. Okay? He said A on Monday and he said B on Tuesday. Which one do you believe? Well, if they want you to think nice things, they'll say A, right? Constantly harping on A. Well, why aren't they telling us B? Why is B less valid? So understand. And he says here, there's a lot of the guy says, but there is no better rule anywhere than among the Turks. There is no more shameful rule than ours in Europe. We Europeans are shameful. Those Turks are just awesome. And he says this more than once. But Lloyd, Luther also said very bad things about the Turks. Yeah, and then later on he said very nice things. So which one is true? Which one do we believe? You know, did he abrogate? Like, did Muhammad Luther abrogate his... Do you understand the problems here with Luther? So guys, I should probably start wrapping up. Okay. There's a lot to be said about Martin Luther. And for instance, he says here, no ruler ought to prevent anyone from teaching or believing what he pleases, whether it is the gospel or lies. In other words, the government shouldn't prevent you from believing. So in other words, personally, I think Christians should be promoting the truth, but Luther felt otherwise. If a ruler wants to promote lies, that's okay. Thanks, Luther. I mean, what do you make of that? How do you interpret that? Do you understand the problem with that? So guys, I will call it a night here. I think we should call it a night. So, Stealthman Goose, welcome. A decade ago, when pointing out the faults of Luther's teachings, I was verbally attacked. I didn't point it out. Yeah, there's a lot. Luther, just like Islam is being unpacked, we are now finding the truth about Luther. And Luther, the story doesn't get better. The more I study, the worse it gets. Yeah, so let me see if I missed any last comments. Yeah, so guys, the connection between Gnosticism, Islam, and the woke have been very helpful. Oh, great, Maeve. Thank you very much for explaining that. Yeah, and so yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about Luther. So look, excuse my French, but really, he was very Machiavellian. So guys, thank you very much. It's been like roughly an hour and a half. So hopefully you've learned something. There's a lot coming up. I've got a lot of work on work. So we've got 10 more slides on this one. I will finish this in the week, next couple of days. Friday, I'm doing a talk on a Catholic channel. I'm being interviewed, and I guess it's going to be fascinating. He's going to ask me some tough questions, I'm sure. And then we're going to talk about some of the early church fathers as well. Saturday, I'm on another channel called Understanding Conspiracy. Okay, fine. It should be fun. We're going to talk about Gnosticism. I'll post those. So guys, have a good night. I'll probably see you in a couple of days. I'll try and finish this particular set of slides, the last 10 pages. And I'm glad that you guys seem to have learned something. And I will catch you all later. God bless. Take care, guys. Good night.